Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Today we're gonna talk about Chao and his rerun, his strengths, weaknesses, and if he has been power crept or not by certain unit. First of all, I want to thank everyone who has been watching my videos and keeping my commentary section wholesome, as well as thanks to Xiaoman's Discord for supporting me and I Win to Lose for advertising me. It's been fun doing shoutouts for his showdowns. Everything I say may be a biased opinion of mine about Chao and his supportive unit natures, so take everything with a grain of salt. The background video does not indicate the strength of Chao per se as a team. Gameplay does change and damage depending on who you use. My Chao is C6 and I usually run him with Bandit and Jin C4 with Freedom Sworn R5, who are both very well built, as some of you have seen in the past. Anyways, let's get into it. Should you pull Chao or not? Chao on paper is one of the stronger units for several reasons. Even if I'm going to doom talk him here and there a bit, he will remain one of the better units for the time being. Chao's inherent strength lies in cheap building costs for him and his supportive units, which are not always supports but can be DPS machines themselves. He does not generate energy while in burst, that is why you use first 2 skill dashes and then hit the burst button immediately to funnel his energy into his burst. Chao does not rely on too many buffs unless you go for a high-end speedrunning at C6 like myself. His ability to free up a lot of space for the other teams is very nice, as he isn't required to run a specific comp. However, that does require at least a form of battery, which is usually one Anemo being Jeanne, the Cross, Venti, Anemo MC to say the least. His most popular choice is Cross with 2 DDS and 2 Geo units being Zhongli and Albedo or Geo MC. Albedo got further buffed with his new sword from the previous event and the new Husk set. Jeanne C4 is hard to get by even for Whales, but is the obvious choice once you get her since she heals and shreds Anemo resistance by 40%. This makes him the most expensive unit for Chao, which is another topic I dislike that has not been addressed since his release. There is no dedicated support for Chao that directly plays into his kit and or enhances it. Every unit we have so far does not really do much for him, and his burst duration, the only one is Zhongli, thanks to his shield and his buffs he received back then, else he would be on the same support ranking as the others. I do recommend to save Primus for Zhongli. As someone who has been playing Chao religiously since launch as well as C6 and despite his copium constellations, I still continue to do so, or try to at least. Our short midget does make me mad sometimes due to various complications and or enemy lineups just not favoring Chao at all. Chao's artifacts are very easy to farm right now, which is the Gladiator from the Strong boxes, Viridestin and Shimanaba from domains. Usually if you want to save resin, you can go to the Momiji Diet Core to farm Emblem Shimanaba and feed the trash artifacts into the Alchemy Strong boxes for the Gladiator. As Emblem is one of the best 4-piece artifacts for many super units that even Chao's supports may benefit from. For example, my Jean does use a 4-piece Emblem and the damage is which varies depending on what I want, between 90k to 130k. Viridestin is an easier domain to farm, however the maiden pieces are not needed by everyone. Which combination should you use? The short answer, it doesn't really matter. The disparity between Gladiator plus Viridestin or Gladiator plus Shimanaba is so small you will not notice it, as I've covered in the previous video. Also, if your subs tend to be very good, you can run him with 2-piece set only or even with Rainbow Artifacts, which features obviously no set bonuses. However, at the same time, this does set him back and his performance at some point just stops and or barely increases. A 4-piece set is very needed for him, and MiHoYo did not release one for almost an entire year. For many this is a double-edged sword, as many who already have, let's say, a 250 CV plus or more Chao obviously do not want to refarm this and spend more resin yet again. But newer players would absolutely benefit from this, despite more resin sync and higher resource cost. His weapon choices are either primarily Jadewing Spear or Hammer for best damage. However, the new Calamity Cola does look promising, but probably needs better crit offset on subs to catch up to the above 2 in average damage. Vortex Vanquisher and Engulfing or Spine are niche options, but can be used on him as well. Any 5-star Spear is very good on Chao, to be precise. Primarily Jadewing Spear does although need a makeup shift or a new Chao best in spear slot, as the stacking mechanic and bonuses are sorted too old to keep up with the newer options that other characters' best in slot weapons provide. If Calamity Cola double attack would have worked, for example on field, then it would be Chao's new best in slot. But it does not, and it strictly will only work with Shenhe, as it is her best in slot obviously. At the same time, his free-to-play options are all terrible, and that includes the Black Spear as well. It does look okay for its stats, but you will quickly realize his damage is not as high, and reaching the average 30k per plunge is not something you will see quickly, where a 5-star spear does that job quite easily while providing additional stats. If you plan to pull his constellations, beware that his C1 to C5 are all dog shit to say the least. They do have their uses. C1 arguably is just a quality of life in many, and it is better to pull for Bermuda Jadewing Spear or Calamity, or save for Zhongli. Go for the weapon if you want to gamble, or save for Zhongli if you don't have him yet. C2 does increase his off-field particle gain slightly and allows him to build a bit less ER, but that's about it. If you compare this versus many other C2, you will see that Chao C2 is one of the weakest in the game. His C4 does provide below 50% HP a roughly 30% damage reduction, can be higher or lower by 1 or 2% depending if you have the death subs or not. I have only 88 death gain from my artifacts, and that was my number I saw when comparing it. Please don't build death to make this more useful. His burst does not increase his skill damage in any way, and C6 does need his burst to be active, as it only works if his burst is still running. If you plunge during the last 0.3 seconds of his burst, for example, and it runs out, C6 will deactivate and it will not give you free skill dashes. So you cannot, just have free skill dashes and then do 6 skill dashes to generate all the particles. That's not how it works. Because the moment it runs out, and that's about it. C6 also requires 2 targets to work, which obviously is a dead constellation on single targets. Did Chao get power creep? I would say yes and no, rather it depends. Most contender for this is Itto. Itto does have everything that Chao wants, more or less: a dedicated support, a better signature weapon, and a 4-piece artifact set, ease of gameplay, etc, etc, etc. Itto gains massive stagger resistance during bursts that Chao does not have. Itto by default builds on death and receives less damage than Chao by nature already, where Chao while in burst loses health for no reason. Itto flinches enemies and keeps them in place with his attacks and especially his charge attacks. Chao spreads his enemies a lot around, mainly Fatui assassins, human enemies in general, Geo Bishops, the new Rifthound Wolves, etc. Itto does not have that problem, as he just keeps them in place, as I said. Their damage is comparable at C0 and C6, however this is only true for certain buff durations and rotations. Itto benefits here at all times. Chao's buffs last mainly for up to 10 seconds at best and is more closer to 7 sec durations. Itto at C6 is basically Chao, but much easier to play. His damage potential is still higher, as we have yet to see a properly invested Itto. His DPS at C6 combined with his white swings is Chao's C6 DPS with his 1 target or 2 if they are nicely lined up for example. But Itto's DPS works with a single target, with Chao's is conditional. But obviously for all of this to work for Itto, it requires to build him, and that's where it gets expensive. Itto is much more expensive to build than Chao, for example. That's why I was going over the topics before that. That does not mean Itto cannot be built, as his free-to-play weapon is much easier to acquire and does a better job than Chao's free-to-play weapon, for example. One may ask why I'm comparing the two. It is rather simple. Itto pretty much does everything that Chao does, but as a Gyuin, and much easier. It felt like all the feedback me and probably some other trauma sent to MiHoYo, and MiHoYo used it all on Itto rather than giving Chao some quality of life with, new weapon or artifacts or a new support for him. But it's not the case. We have yet to see any form of buffs or changes for other units aside of Zhongli, and we may not even see any, as Zhongli's case was a bit special, I suppose. The other unit I will go about is Raiden. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Many said Raiden cannot into DPS. Raiden is a super. Joke's on you! Even at C0 she's a very competitive unit, even versus Chao, while providing much more support for her team at the same time that many tend to forget. Her field time is more or less half of Chao's, but her damage at C0 versus Chao's C0 is relatively the same under their respective teams, that is. She also has 100% stagger resistance during her burst, and her white slashes nearly spawn across the screen, making her a very solid AoE DPS machine. She also has a very good free-to-play weapon called the Catch, a bit boring to get, but it's free. Raiden directly enhances the entire team while still dealing tons of damage, and don't get me started on her C2, that is a beast on its own. Once you get Sarah C6, which some did, they can basically steamroll the game much quicker, and to be honest, even without Sarah C6. Much more efficient and much easier than most other units. She basically power crept everyone when it comes to all aspects of team composition, ER regeneration, damage and ease of use. Her damage exponentially rises with every small upgrade due to the nature of her kit, and she is not set back with bad constellations and artifact set and weapons. Her constellations, even C3, ups her damage massively. C4 and C6 are questionable, but I have her myself at C6, and C6 is a blessing in co-op content if you would watch my previous video with fucked up meme thumbnail, me and the boys. The funny joke is, she also works in my Chao comp. We call it Xiaoden, thanks to coded from Xiaomates for that. As she reduces my Zhan's burst from 20 sec to 15 sec and allows Xiao to switch off earlier with absolutely no energy problems, her damage over 7 sec is still higher than Xiao's, which is sad, and my Raiden isn't even 240 CV or something or anything. She's dumbstruck at 200, but yeah, talk about power creep. Xiaoden also works at C0 just for the pure energy regen, and her damage is still respectable. Her skill still enhances burst damage and it may allow Xiao to run less ER as well as his team's burst oriented sub DPSs. On a final note, should you pull Xiao? Yes, if you absolutely love his design and gameplay. C0 or C6 doesn't matter. If you plan to pull Constellation, commit to C6, don't stop, because even at C6 at times he will feel like C0 or C1. No, if you care about the meta, the future, and if you're worried that he might not get anything. Xiao still holds to this day his position as a very good AoE damage dealer and will probably do so in the future. There's nothing wrong with pulling him and building him, as he is one of the units that will give you an easier 36-star Abyss. For example, as there will be always rooms with more than 2 enemies, but probably needs a bench if there are too many bosses, single targets in a row per chamber. Invested Xiaos can still beat them, don't get me wrong, but be prepared, your other side needs to be most likely faster and clear speed. That being said, I thank you all who watched up till now and hope you will continue to enjoy my content even if it's copium at times. Hit a like and subscribe if you haven't done yet. I appreciate your support and hopefully Xiao gets some love in the near future. See you later, Shintenzu out.